Mr. Bob Negen, it is a pleasure to see you again.
Well, Peter, it is always good to see you too, my friend. I'm really honored that you have me on, and I look forward to our conversation.
Yeah, me too. And I love that happy smile, Bob. And it's good.
Well, thank you.
For those of you who are watching us on video, you'll be able to see Bob. And but Bob and I have a connection back. Oh, I don't know, 5 or 6 years now, I guess. Hey, Bob. And I was a proud member of your Platinum Mastermind group for a couple of
Yes.
years there, and really enjoyed our time together. And when one of the things that we haven't had an opportunity to do on the podcast yet is talk a lot of retail. And what I thought we would do today, Bob, is to sort of go back through some of the ideas of what is the future of retail from all of the things that have happened here in the last couple of years to what does the future look like down the road for retail, and then give me some thoughts around that, Bob.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what I see that I think that the immediate trend is what I call acceleration. And so the good news and the bad news.
Yeah.
The bad news is that the pandemic changed everything.
Oh
The
boy.
good news is the pandemic changed everything.
Exactly.
And Peter, you're a retailer, so you see this in your world too. But what I see happening is an acceleration,
Mm.
and the independent, and that's all I work with. We don't work with department stores or big chains. We work with small to mid-size independent brick and mortar retailers.
Yeah.
Is that the people who embrace the change, the people who embrace all of the new tech or are using the technologies that are emerging are going to become so much more successful, so much more quickly than ever before. That you can build a business and build a brand in a speed that wasn't even you couldn't even think about growing that fast before the pandemic. So, that's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. But then the bad news is, of course, that those people who don't want
Mm.
to change are going to go out of business faster than ever. Or even worse, they're going to become what I call the walking dead,
Yeah.
right? And those people, they're the people who are just hanging on. Their lives are filled with stress. They start to blame everybody for the fact that their store isn't making it anymore. So, the good news and the bad news is it's changed. The good news is if you change with it, the future's bright. The bad news is if you don't change with it, frankly, you're screwed. So that's how it starts.
I think that's great. I mean, we can, from personal experience, we were closed 20 weeks here with our shoe stores through different closures, 8 weeks, and about 6 weeks type thing. So over 20 weeks. But from that perspective, through that time, we took some initiatives to change the way we do things at Shootopia that allowed us to survive through that time, do more online business, do some other things, change the way we market, change, just continuously be looking for ways to change based on what you were saying. And then as we came out of this last closure in the spring, we've had 4 of 5 of the months since we've reopened have been our best ever months for our system, and that's because of those changes that we made through those times. So I completely sort of am in alignment with what you're saying there.
Oh, absolutely. And so, Peter, what you just talked about speaks to what I believe the future of retail is. So, before the pandemic, retail was all about driving people into the store,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That was the name of the game. You drove people into the store, then you gave them a great experience, and hopefully, you had highly trained salespeople on the floor, you had bestsellers in stock, and
Yep.
all of the things that made for a good retailer. But what has emerged and what technology has allowed is what I'm calling omni-experiential. So a lot of people talk about omni-channel retail,
Yep.
but omni-channel focuses on how you sell to your customers. And omni-experiential focuses on how you interact with your customers.
Yeah.
And so what you're doing now, this is, I mean, and I'm very confident in my opinion about this. And Peter, we've known each other a long time. I'm confident in my opinion.
Yeah,
I
that's
might
good.
not always be right, but I think I
I
am.
think we share
Doggone
that.
it. And so what's the technology that has emerged has allowed small to independent, our people, small to mid-sized independent, to let people experience their brands in many, many ways. So you talked about it. So all of a sudden, the pandemic I mean, people buffed up their e-commerce presence faster than I've ever seen it happen before.
For sure.
Social selling was I mean, nobody, the only people who engaged in social selling before the pandemic was QVC and the Home Shopping Network,
Exactly.
or the Canadian equivalent
Yeah,
thereof.
exactly. Mhm.
And, all these things that lead to convenience, curbside pickup,
Yeah.
delivery, content marketing is bigger than ever before. The fact that we're here right now really speaks to what has happened because of the pandemic. And so if you look at the before model, you're driving people into the store. Now I'd like your listeners to think of it as a big circle, and that circle is everything that is in your brand. It's your store, of course, but it's also your website. It's your
Yeah.
content marketing. It's the pop-up shops that you do. It's live social selling, and all of these different ways that your customers get to experience your brand. If your brand is consistent and you're a good retailer and you give your customers a great experience, they're going to reward you with loyalty. They're going to reward you with word of mouth, but most importantly, they're going to reward you with their money.
Yeah, that's
So,
what we
I mean,
need.
the technology, the price of the technology keeps coming down, and it just makes for a beautiful opportunity for everybody in our community.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it on the nail there. I mean, having that omnipresence, did you call it?
Omni-experiential.
Omni
So
experiential.
omni is the
Yeah.
word for all. So what
Yeah,
we're trying
right.
to do is build the experiences, as many different experiences into the brand as we can.
Yeah, I love that. And there are so many ways you can take that these days that allow you into somebody's, onto their couch, into their bedroom, like all the private places. It's like you can go there now through social, right? And
Right.
it's really interesting when you think of all these. You're not just doing it in the store when they open the door and come in. You're
That's
you're
exactly right.
that experience is throughout and could be in a different country. It could be, anywhere. So
So,
when
so, oh, I'm sorry. Go
Go ahead.
ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, what I was going to share is a story that I think is just perfect to this. So there is a small knitting store in Bay City, Michigan, a
Okay.
piece of EWE, right? And it was a small local store.
Mhm.
The pandemic came, the state of Michigan was shut down, and so she started going into her store and doing live social selling. And what she shared is that she had several good months in a row, but the story that's relevant to our conversation here is one of her best customers is in Bozeman, Montana,
Hmm.
which our son goes to college in Bozeman, so that's a 30-hour drive, right? But she thinks of this woman in Bozeman thinks of Susan as her local knitting store. You
Awesome.
see, this is the power of live social selling.
Love
One
it.
way to experience the brand,
Yeah.
e-commerce, another way, content marketing. So I mean, it's a perfect example. And
Yeah.
so many people are doing big dollars on social selling.
Yeah, I love that. And it's something, when I talk about our best ever months that we've just had, if it wasn't for the increase in the web business that we've done, because when we were closed, that's the only business we did. So we were very
Right.
thankful for that. But coming off of that, we have literally 10 times, if not more, every month what we were doing prior to the pandemic on the web store, because we've
Yeah.
had a web store for years. It's been something
Right.
that we've had for a long time. It's not like we just did it because of pandemic. I know a lot of people did, but we've had one for a really long time. But the difference now is that we know how to use it better, we know how to market it better, and we're actually taking it to new levels, and that's helping our entire system. It's helping us educate people before they come in. We're really finding our in-store traffic that people have dug into our website, found out what they want. They would come in on purpose. I want to try this particular item on, and do you have it? Let's go. And
Absolutely.
so it's pre-selling for us too, Bob.
Yes, it's pre-selling, it's post-selling, and you just really talked about, that is the advantage of that is what has happened.
Yeah.
And that speaks to the acceleration.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden you're having great months. Why are you having great months? Because you learned a whole bunch of stuff when
Yeah.
your back was against the wall,
That's
right?
it. Yeah.
And that happened to everyone. I mean, it happened to us here at Whizbang Retail Training.
Yeah.
You've been to our Retail Success Summit
I have.
several times.
Yeah.
Well, all of a sudden, we couldn't have a Retail Success Summit. So we brought it online. We spent a lot of money learning from the experts how to do it. We had our best Retail Success Summit ever.
Nice.
But in terms of attendance, in terms of impact, in terms of dollars generated, in terms of the countries that were represented, because
Awesome.
we do what I'm suggesting everybody does, which is, okay, this is the situation as it exists right now. Let's get to work and figure this stuff out so we can, do this. And I think that there's one other really important point here, Peter, and that is when you go through something like this, you become more resilient. You become more confident.
Yeah.
You become more trusting of your gut. And all of those things, are what make entrepreneurs tick. It's what all of those things that help entrepreneurs become more successful.
Yeah. Love that,
So, I
Bob.
mean, I love your story. I love your story.
Thank you. Thank you. And the big thing is we sat down. I have this other little phrase that I use a lot. It's called clarity creates confidence. When you were talking about confidence, clarity
Right.
creates confidence, and confidence ignites momentum. And I
Yes.
think that idea of when it hits the fan, that
Right.
you sit down, create the clarity that you need to create so you can build that confidence and move this thing ahead. And I mean, the future of retail is positive. The future of
Oh, I
retail
mean,
is awesome, right?
so, Peter, truly, I have never been more bullish on the future of retail. And I've been doing retail for, oh my God, I hate to even admit this now, 43 years, 19 years as a store owner, 20 some years doing this.
Yeah.
I've lived through several recessions as a retailer and several recessions as somebody who helps retailers. And I just have to tell you that I have never been more excited about what's happening. And you're seeing, and the other cool thing is that there's so many changes. Things are morphing.
Mm.
So, people are getting in and getting out. People are, starting a brand with a startup and a website
Yeah.
and then moving into physical stores. People are taking their physical stores and creating brands around their content marketing. So everybody, the technology. So the futurist, Peter Diamandis, says that technology always moves in one direction. It's democratized and it's commoditized. It becomes a commodity. And that's happening, isn't it?
Yeah, it
Think
is.
about the access to technology for cheap that we have available to
I
us.
know, crazy.
So if you're sharp and you're willing to give it some energy, I'm just super excited about what's going to happen. You're going to see a lot of people going out of business, but they're the hobbyists. They're the person who, oh, I really would like to have a quilt store, or oh, I love bicycles. I should have a bike shop.
Yeah.
And then they don't do what they need to do to become retail professionals. And those people are their failure or their status of walking dead gets accelerated.
Yeah.
But you're going to see a lot of fresh, new, digitally native, young people getting into retail. Old dogs like us, we're going to be doing great things. It's just an exciting time.
It is. Bob, tell everybody if they were to do one thing to improve their retail business after they got off this particular podcast, what would it be?
So what I would do, Peter, is I would get together with my whole team and I
Yeah.
would do this thing that with this model that it's called ADD, ask, discuss, decide. And I would ask them as a team, I would ask them to go through and let's do an inventory of all of the ways that people experience our brand, our content marketing, our website, our email marketing, our social media lives, all delivery, all of the ways that people experience our brand. And then, so first I'd make a laundry list, and then I would make sure that the experience is consistent. Super quick story. So in the Platinum Mastermind group,
Mm-hmm.
we have somebody who has 4 really, really cool, fun gift and card shops. And what she said, I mean, she absolutely blew up the pandemic, right? But what she said was, after a conversation about Omni-Experiential, she said, what I realized is that when people get something delivered to them, either curbside or we send it to them because they bought it from our website,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't have that rock, paper, scissors feel, right?
Right.
So there's sort of these little silos of brand experience, of the look and feel of the brand.
Mm-hmm.
So when somebody comes to your website, they should feel the same thing that they feel when they're in your store. If they
Like
get an
that.
email, it should have the same feel. So really, just right now, we got through the pandemic. Now is the time to embrace Omni-Experiential. But then when you ask for a takeaway, that takeaway is make sure that you do an inventory and there's consistency across the brand experience.
I love that. And just on a side, we have our monthly manager meeting. We take a half day every month with my management team. We go off site and discuss this. So we'll add ADD to the list tomorrow.
All right, there you go. I mean,
Yeah.
and you're going to find, well, when you were in the Platinum Mastermind group, we did the customer experience audit,
Yeah.
Dan Sullivan's
Sure.
process.
Yeah.
But now it just needs to be broadened and really dialed in.
Yeah.
We've all made it through. Now's the time to polish it up.
Love that, Bob. Well, thanks so much for spending some time with me here today. And why don't you tell everybody how they could get a hold of you if they want to learn a little bit more about Bob Negen and Whiz Bang Training?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Peter. I appreciate that opportunity. So if you go to whizbangtraining.com and there's an H in Whizbang, you can sign up for our free tip of the week. And so we send out a free tip every Wednesday, and every Sunday I send out a video blog called Real Retail TV. If you want to email me directly, it's bob.negen. You spell my last B-O-B, of course, but you spell my last name Negen, bob.negen at whizbangtraining.com. I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, that's great, Bob. And I really enjoyed seeing your smiling face again. It's good to spend some time together, and appreciate you here on the Simplifying Entrepreneurship podcast with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Peter. It's
All right.
always a pleasure.
Make it a great day.
All right, thank you.